Do you guys remember years ago, around 2012, 2013, there was a trend in the gaming industry that didn't last very long. It died, like, within a year of it existing. I'm talking about Android consoles. Consoles like the Ouya, GameStick, and there were a few others also. They were supposed to be the next big thing in gaming, and I remember when the Ouya was first revealed and announced and had its Kickstarter and everything going on, everyone on the internet was hyped for the Ouya and thought it was going to be a great system because the ideas sound promising of it being an Android-based console that can run Android games, but on the TV with a controller. Which at the time, you didn't have a backbone, you didn't have all these other things that people use now, where you can have a more conventional gaming experience just using your smartphone. But back then, it was a novel concept to play mobile games like you're playing a console. And for it to be cheap, it was only $100, and also had its own lineup of games that were planned for the Ouya. It was supposed to be the platform for all indie developers to put their games on, but that obviously didn't work out. No one put any games on the Ouya, and it died very, very quickly. It died a very quick death. So, yeah, the whole idea of an Android console never fully materialized, but, you know, with the recent rise of Android handhelds, like the Odin and the Thor, and all these other systems, the Retroid Pocket, these are specifically devices where the main selling point is its ability to emulate games from a wide variety of systems. Like, wouldn't that be cool to have a console that could do that? To have a dedicated device that's meant to plug into your TV with a controller, and you can just download any emulator you want and play them with ease. Because that's what Android basically allows you to do. And Android emulation has come a very long way over the years. Just a few years ago, it was very rough around the edges, and performance was all over the place. But now it is actually to the point where I'd say it's close to being on par with PC game emulation. Obviously, depending on what type of hardware you're running on your Android device. These handhelds are really powerful machines. They can run PS2, GameCube, Wii U, even Switch games with relative ease. There are some games that still aren't compatible, but that has more to do with the emulator itself that has compatibility issues, and they're still working on that. But, like, yeah, you could play, like, every game up to the PS2, GameCube era with no problem, and even select games from the PS3, depending on, you know, how heavy it is. But still, I mean, that's come a long way. But, like, imagine if you have a console-like device that you can obviously have more power and capabilities because of it being a much larger form factor, because the AYN Thor is only, like, a little bit bigger than a 3DS, and is so incredibly powerful. Like, it definitely matches and actually beats that of the original Nintendo Switch. I would love to have a console version of those, and not even for myself, because I have no problem just downloading all the emulators on my PC and playing them through there, because it's just convenient for me to have all of my games in one place on my computer. I love playing games on Steam, and I love playing retro games on my computer through emulation as well. And I actually prefer emulation over original hardware in almost every single scenario. Unless it's something like PS3 360 era, where we're not quite there yet with certain titles. But otherwise, like, emulation's a great thing. And it actually allows for a better experience in a lot of situations where you can run it at a higher frame rate, resolution than the game originally allowed you to on the original hardware. And, you know, the thing is, like, yeah, I could do all that on my PC, but I have friends that aren't gonna bother trying to emulate games on their computer or even on their phone. But if I got them this device and actually, you know, put all the games on there, like, they would love that. And I think it would be a really cool gift idea, and would be something that they get a lot of value out of, because they're talking about, I want to buy this console, I want to buy that console, and I want, like, all these retro systems and games. Like, what if I just have something where you have all the games in one device? That would be awesome, because the only other way for me to achieve that would be to buy a PC with a hard drive. You know, they sell those $500 hard drives that come with all these pre-installed games. Obviously, I do it all myself because that's a ripoff, but that's not very friendly. Like, not very user-friendly, like, to boot up a PC and have it connected to your TV and that be the way that you play these games. Like, no, I want them to have the console experience, if you know what I'm saying, because they're very casual people that they just want to pick up their games and play them and not have to think about it. Because I've gotten gifts for friends before, like the Steam Deck, the Switch 2, so they have all the good stuff. I've run out of good stuff to give them. The only other thing I'm thinking about is the Lenovo Legion Go 2, which was it's a really cool device because it's a handheld and a PC, so you can do like all that emulation stuff. So maybe that would be an option because it can run emulators quite well because it's a very powerful machine for a handheld. Problem is, it's almost $2,000, and I'm like, do I want to spend $2,000 to gift a gift to one friend? I consider myself pretty generous, but not that generous. But that would be a potential solution for what I'm looking for because it runs Windows, can run emulators with no problem, and can also be docked like a Switch, so you can play it on your TV if you want. They would definitely love that because they love their Switch 2 and their Steam Deck, but yeah, I mean, it's like, I just want a little device that maybe it's like $500-$600. Like, I think that would be a good price and would be able to do everything that I'd need for it to do. But I guess the problem there is that Android isn't really optimized very well for TVs. Like, you have Android TV, which is a dedicated OS for TV specifically, but it's mostly kind of like Roku, where it's mostly just meant for streaming and other apps just for entertainment, not really gaming. Like, you can't just download COD Mobile on Android TV and play it on your TV. That ain't how it works. So it's really just up to Android and Google to actually beef up the TV aspect of their operating system and make it fully fleshed out where you can have all that, like, because otherwise it's a very clunky and not good experience because my mom actually had one of those cheap Chinese Android boxes that just straight up ran Android. Like, it had the Google Play Store and everything, but it was just like a little box that didn't really do much. It was meant to stream because back then smart TVs weren't really a thing that was like part of every TV, and the TV that we had back then wasn't a smart TV, and we're gonna buy a new TV just to have that. So a cheap $20 Android box thing was a good solution, my sister thought, when she got her that gift, but it died within, I think a month of having it. It already died, and, it was a cheap piece of crap. So, it's probably not something that's possible to be a thing, the idea of an Android console. The Ouya specifically had its own OS and its own thing going for it. It was an Android-based device, not just full Android. So I guess, maybe you could have a company invest in their own operating system and, to have support for Android apps, but, you kind of have to work with Google, to allow the Play Store and other stuff like that to be on there, and I don't see that being a thing. It would be cool, not just for emulation, but to have certain mobile games just run on your TV, like COD Mobile, which I mentioned. That being on TV would be cool, but also to be optimized for your resolution and display for the specific TV that you're playing the device on, which we're just not there. And we weren't there 15 years ago. We're not there now. We probably won't ever be there, sadly. But I think it's something that would be nice if it were a thing. That's all I'm saying. To have an all-in-one, high-quality retro emulation device, because, you had the Soulja Boy console and all these other weird knockoff products that weren't really even good at what they were advertising it to be, and were just, terrible. But as far as the Ouya concept itself, releasing a modern version of that, if that could work, I mean, the ship has sailed, because back then, indie gaming was a novel concept, and that's what Ouya was building its entire identity around. But back then, Sony and Microsoft were starting to open up their platforms to indie developers like they never had before. And obviously, PC was still going to be the heart of indie gaming, and where most of the innovation and the exciting experiences were going to be. So, that whole idea I don't think is ever going to work again. But just straight up Android console device that can run your games, you can run your Android games on the Play Store, and all the Android emulators. That would be so cool.